Hello again. I am back after a couple weeks of taking a break. This these energies, especially with Neptune going back into Pisces, is um, probably making everybody a little bit tired. I know I've been extra tired again. This is so much fun. But let's get into this week of November 12th. I'm starting with Wednesday because that's when I'm recording it. Um, Yesterday, on Tuesday, though, is when Jupiter went into retrograde and went into retrograde in Cancer. Um, let's get the chart up going. All right, beautiful. So, as we can see, Jupiter here at 25 degrees Cancer retrograde. That happened yesterday, and a lot of astrologers have been talking about it. And, they talk about Jupiter as just being about luck, but Jupiter is a lot more complex than that. Jupiter is our gateway to higher meaning in our life. Without Jupiter, we would probably lack a lot of hope and faith because Jupiter is bringing higher purpose, higher meaning to things. Um, in Greek mythology, Jupiter was Zeus. So, so Jupiter basically is Zeus. Um, and this moment of going retrograde in Cancer, Cancer is about family and ancestry, um, where you feel like your home is, where you feel comfortable at home, and Jupiter stationing retrograde is going to ask you to think about issues or things that come up within family or ancestry or your home in a way that brings more meaning to the, you know, the way that you've always thought about family. Something with more meaning is meant to come through during this time. And it's a time of review. And so we'll be reviewing because retrograde is a review period. And we'll be reviewing our um, our relationship with family, our uh, uh, you know, some very uh, deep past ancestry might be coming up during this time, especially with Jupiter in Cancer. That's just bound to happen. But during this retrograde period, there's like I said, a review. So we're going over this stuff, and you might find like a box of old family photos that has you going back in time. It's like that. It's like that moment in Christmas Vacation where the dad is up in the attic and he's looking for something up there. I can't remember. And he finds all these old things and he gets trapped up there. And then he's going, the retrograde. He gets trapped up there and he starts going through old family stuff and he's like crying over family videos. And it's really brings a moment of meaning to what he's going through in that moment of time in the film. Um, And so that's what this Jupiter retrograde really feels like. It's like you're stuck in a situation and you're going to be going back over some memories that have to do with family, um, childhood, or your kids growing up and stuff. So that's what that retrograde is really going to be about with Jupiter. And um, so today, Wednesday, we start the day off. The first aspect that happens, it's kind of in the afternoon, but Mercury conjuncts Mars again, while Mercury is in its retrograde also. So Mercury just recently went retrograde, I think last Sunday. Yeah, on Sunday. And so we've been feeling this Mercury stopped at 6 degrees Sagittarius for a few days now. Mercury will be moving backwards soon, but has been stuck there at 6 degrees. And uh, Mars caught up with it again, because we've already seen this conjunction as Mercury was going by Mars. And now we're seeing it again now as Mars goes by Mercury and Mercury in his retrograde. And we'll see it one more time at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. I can't remember when it happens, but Mercury and Mars will be conjuncting again in Capricorn when it happens again after Mercury goes forward again. So it's going to be this play between Mercury and Mars for a while. It has been for a while, and it's going to still be that way. And what does that mean? Well, it means that our minds and our actions are, being driven by essentially what sign they're in right now, Sagittarius. So, and that's one of the reasons why I spent a little bit of time talking about Jupiter at the beginning of this, is because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And with Mercury going retrograde in Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, there is a little extra emphasis on that Jupiter going retrograde also. And um, so I'm sure that you may have noticed that it's been a little bit chaotic, and there seems to be an extra amount of like accidents out there. Uh, just It just seems to be what I keep reading about every time I pick up my phone, and doesn't matter what I'm looking at. We just keep reading about these crazy accidents. And I know that Mercury and Mars together doesn't really signify accidents. It's just that they just left Scorpio after conjuncting in Scorpio. And now they're in fiery Jupiter. I mean, Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is a little bit more about risk taking, actually, about having faith and just hoping for the best. And so, a little bit of this hoping for the best with regards to extreme risk taking. With Mars there, it could be a little bit more extreme of the risk taking. Um, and with Mercury going retrograde right there, our minds aren't really thinking properly. If we're not looking inward, then our minds aren't really, we're not gonna make proper decisions. Um, and so just hoping that some kind of extreme risk-taking event will work out. It might be your mind messing with you. So you might want to just take a little bit extra time especially while Mercury's in retrograde. And then after Mercury is done being in retrograde for a couple weeks, and you may have thought of a better solution to whatever action you were going to take that was higher risk. I hope that that helps somebody out there that's listening to this. Um, because we're still in Scorpio season with the sun in Scorpio, and so there's a lot to what is going on with like um our decision making. Um, the sun being in Scorpio mean we might be feeling um either, well, you might be digging up information that's making you feel afraid because of that investigative feeling. You want to dig into something, and in Scorpio, you're bound to be digging up something that is going to make you afraid. Like looking into some scary news that all of a sudden you're more afraid than you were before you read that news article. And so, what you want to do when the moon is in Virgo, like it is today and on Wednesday, is that you can organize a little bit, get some of your resources together, um, see what it is that you can bring together to make yourself feel more prepared. Um, it's not like I think that any kind of event is going to happen. I just know that people's minds are bent on it right now. And you're all leaning into fearful situations because it's just where our attention is being drawn to. Um, so yes, a very good way to use the energy of the moon being in Virgo, because the moon in Virgo is just kind of weak for the moon, actually, sort of a weak position. But Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So you want to look into a review of sorts, um, which is sort of like organizing your thoughts, organizing your space, taking account for what you have and what you might need if some kind of emergency were to happen. And it's pretty simple, actually. Um, you just take certain steps, and at least you're doing something, you know, with Mars and Mercury conjunct together while Mercury's going retrograde. The thing that might make you feel better is doing something proactive about your own like survival or whatever. Uh, and again, it's not like something bad is going to happen. It's just that that's going to be the thing that makes you feel better, is just putting a little bit of effort into being prepared a little bit more than you are right now. Because we could all do that. I mean, I'm one to speak for sure, you know? So that is Wednesday. And we have the moon squaring Uranus, right before it goes into Virgo, which, they could be putting that need to take action feeling. for something that could take you, could get to you off guard, you know. Uranus being the planet of surprises sometimes, and unexpected events. You can't always prepare for everything, but that's one of the reasons why you might be feeling the need to be prepared for something. It's because Uranus in Taurus again, after being retrograde, Uranus finally went back into Taurus again for the last time. And, you know, it'll be another 86 years or so until Uranus comes back into Taurus. So it's the last time for some of us. And so it's one of the reasons why we're thinking about like natural disasters and stuff. And, you know, I don't want to say something bad is going to happen, but make yourself feel better by trying to do whatever it is that you can to get some resources together. It doesn't matter what it is, anything that you can do, right? Because we can all help each other if something does go down. All right, and then we're moving on to Thursday, the 13th. Um, Moon squares Mercury a little bit earlier on in the day. A little bit closer. Yeah. The moon squares Mercury and then squares Mars, obviously, because they're together. And that's, you know, more of that feeling like you want to take action, being prepared for something, but also tapping into having hope, um, just tapping into more of that hope, faith, even though the moon is in Virgo and going to be passing by that south node, which can be, you know, the south node is always a time of letting go. And so there's always that thing like you can do what you can do and let go of what you can't, you know, let go of what you can't do. Um, I mean, I'm saying do a lot because Mars is involved, and so Mars is about the doing, the drive that we have to do things. You know, Mars is quite passionate because that's what drives us. And so the moon and Mars being in this square formation, our passion, um, you know, squaring the moon, we're gonna feel the urge to do something. And just remember that the things will pass. These things will pass. These feelings will pass. And you don't need to do anything too extreme 'cause this combination is still kind of here. It's gonna be there for a little bit. And so you want to try to find some kind of creative way to channel that energy, mm, the energy of your desire to do something. You know, you want to use it to create something that's going to make you feel a sense of satisfaction. So not a whole lot more is going on Thursday, other than the moon passing by the south node, and that'll be um, ends up being sort of late, almost 11 o'clock here in Pacific. So late at night, the moon and the south node come together, and you if you're awake, you might want to just think about what it is that you need to surrender. That's all that Thursday evening ends with surrendering. Yeah, let's see. Friday the 14th. The sun and the moon is in a sextile and at like 11. Oops. Let's do this. Sun and the moon in a sextile, which is always bringing some kind of opportunity, but um, the moon is coming in for that new moon. 'Cause the new moon will be happening next Wednesday, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. Um, and so this closing sextile is going to be some kind of opportunity for closure, especially since the moon passing by the south node is going to ask you to surrender something. And if you find that surrender moment, then closure is definitely the logical next step. And the planets indicate that there is some kind of closure coming for a lot of us that have been, excuse me, doing the work. If you've been doing the work, then one of the closures that you've been waiting for and working towards is going to be presented to you. It's that could be a beautiful thing, especially if it's something that you've been working towards, you know. Hopefully it's not something that is unexpected. But now that, we've got Mercury actually moving backwards. Mercury is the ruler of that south node and the moon that's in that sextile to the sun. So there is a review, a surrendering, and a closure. And then later on that day, we've got the moon that it will be in a opposition with Saturn, right? 25 degrees. Saturn's still retrograding in Pisces, um, with Neptune in Pisces. It's making me tired. I cannot wait for them to go back into Aries. That was really, really helping me with my energy. So yeah, these guys, the moon will be opposing them. First Saturn and then Neptune. And it's just gonna be maybe making I know that the dreams are coming in for all of us. Crazy dreams, prophetic dreams, um, just dreams that are probably disrupting your sleep, honestly, because you're doing that work at night. You're unconsciously doing work. And that's what that opposition with Saturn looks like to me. And they're like doing work while you're sleeping. And it's making everybody tired. We should all be having more compassion for each other because we're all doing dream time work right now. We're all losing sleep, whether you realize it or not. And this particular arrangement, there's connection to Jupiter here in Cancer. And so the Dreamtime work that you're doing is probably have to do with past lives, um, ancestry, and um, it's uh, the waters, the water realm. We've got Pisces and Cancer in play here, and it's like foggy and unclear, but just trust that the sleep that you're losing right now, while this is happening, while you're doing all this work, while you're dreaming, it will be paying off. It will. Don't try to artificially override this with like sleeping aids and stuff because this is important stuff that we're doing right now. And if you're taking yourself too far out of it to where you can't even participate in your own soul work while you're dreaming, while you're sleeping, uh, you're missing out on a good opportunity because Neptune won't be going back into Pisces in our lifetime. It just won't be happening. And so it's good, yes, we're all tired and we're all losing sleep, but it's a good opportunity right now to be just surrendering to the work that we're doing in our sleep unconsciously. It's just what's meant to be right now. That's why a lot of us will be in our waking life, be awakening. Mm, right? So I'll move on to Saturday. And Saturday, the 15th. We've got a few different things. So the moon is starting out by opposing Neptune and then trining Uranus a little bit later on. This is all very, very early in the morning. And then going into Libra. And so then Venus becomes the ruler. And Venus is in Scorpio, about to conjunct Black Moon Lilith exactly in Scorpio. So the moon being in Libra, even though that's a better place for the moon, and Venus is usually a good dispositor for that moon in Libra. Venus being in Scorpio means that we're going into investigation mode. We're going to be looking into what is oppressing us. Black Moon Lilith is really like how we feel repressed and what we do to self-censor in order to not seem like we're too far out there, like, too dark, too taboo. And so we're going to be looking more and investigating that more about ourselves and other people. Um, Possibly more looking at other people and with this investigative eye because the moon being in Libra is traditionally a sign that represents other people. And so, and you know, it's always interesting to me when we have Black Moon Lilith in the mix because she's so mysterious and so misunderstood. Um, she is our shadow side that we basically have like a blind side to. We're blind to how she acts in our life. Because most of the time we aren't really consciously thinking of like how we're self-censoring. It just happens. We just do it, because we want to fit in and we want people to like us. With Venus being conjunct Black Moon Lilith, there might be a breaking moment there where, you know, instead of self-censoring so that people will like you might let out something a little dark. A little bit of your shadow might come out, and hopefully in a conscious way. Um, but yeah, this could be a time when people's shadows come out and they're not really understanding why. Because Black Moon Lilith also represents like our rage, because our rage is, deep down, is where it comes from this very repressed place. And so when it surfaces, um, eh, when it surfaces, it's usually like not okay, but there's something that needs to be looked at, right? Black Moon Lilith, it's your blind spot. And something is probably going to surface. Because we're all still in Scorpio season and the moon is getting closer to that Scorpio new moon. The Scorpio new moon is gonna be an eye opener. I know that. Um, Not necessarily revealing, but it'll be the beginning of something. But we'll be getting there next week. And so, all right, so the moon goes into Libra on Saturday, sort of unleashing something that might be a little bit, um, dark. And with the moon trining Pluto also. So the moon will be trining Pluto when the moon goes into uh, Libra. And still in the morning at 9 o'clock. Let me go back for an hour. We have the sun in conjunct with Chiron. And Chiron's not alone. We talked about Chiron as Eris, um, goddess of strife, war, um, jealousy. Uh, but she's very complex, actually. I use those words, but there's a lot to her. Like probably do a video on her. Um, but that in conjunct with the sun and Chiron. Chiron is in Aries, and our self-identity wounds have been broken open over and over and over again as Chiron has slowly been going through Aries. And there's a group of people that are going through, still currently going through their Chiron return. Gen Xers that are like in their 50s. Um, if you're in your early 50s, you're going through your Chiron return. And it's a slow process of, um, peeling back those wounds again for another look. And if you've been doing the work for healing, then you'll probably find that a lot of those wounds are healed and that you can actually help other people heal those specific wounds. And so these wounds right now are about our self-identity, about our spark of life, our pure existence. And so this in conjunct with the sun is bringing up this uncomfortable feeling with that again that we're all gonna feel. We all have this feeling with that in within us that an Eris right there makes it a little bit more so. She makes it a little bit more like just that feeling like the wound of just existing, not being good enough, and having to compete in order to be seen. What is the world like these days? You have to really compete. You have to hustle really hard and compete in these like weird ways in order to be seen. I struggle with that because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make YouTube videos about astrology, but in order to get seen, I mean, that's a really crazy thing to be looking at. And if I let it get to me, it's like I might as well just not be doing this. I might as well just give up, right? But that's the dark side of this arrangement, this alignment. That could be what we're feeling. It's like, why am I even doing this thing to try to get noticed, to try to be seen, just like because I exist, because, but it's a passing transit. Eventually the sun will move on and we'll have had that healing and hopefully worked it out by then, you know, as it is definitely um a strange journey trying to get yourself seen out there these days. It's not a normal thing. It's not a normal scene anymore. What is normal though, right? That kind of cracks me up just thinking about that. And that's a whole thing, right? So the next day, on Sunday, we got the sun trining Jupiter. So the sun at 25 degrees. Jupiter is still at 25 degrees because just stationed retrograde. So Jupiter will be staying there for a little bit. Um, that's actually right on my descendant, 25 degrees Cancer. So we'll see what happens there. But that trine between the sun and Jupiter. and then water signs, and just more of that deep investigation, diving deeper into family. Um, for people who are thinking about moving their family, now's a good time to just investigate, just dive deep into your hopes and dreams. And where is it that's going to make you happy and why? What kind of emotional pull brings you there? What can you look into to find? Because I know a lot of people are moving around. It's just kind of part of Jupiter in Cancer is sort of like that quest to find a more perfect home or the quest to reconnect with ancestry. Jupiter and Sagittarius are all about that quest, mm, seeking more. Um, Jupiter wasn't very restful. Jupiter was always off creating new children here and there and everywhere. And that just means that Jupiter is really a symbol of seeding something new. Something new that is going to create a higher purpose, that will be bringing gifts. Um, that's the abundance factor. So, yeah, Jupiter's about abundance and about luck, but there is sort of a little bit of a secret to it. It's not so straightforward. It's not always like Jupiter is lucky. Oh, that's where you find your luck. Well, that's where the seed was planted that needs to be taken care of, needs to be nurtured, and then brought to fruition in a way that, needs to be protected during the time until it gets to fruition. So then, because that's the story of Jupiter, Zeus, is that Jupiter had to be hidden away or else be eaten by his father. Um, so again, there's ancestry, there is family stuff coming up in a deep investigative way. As we've got the whole grand trine happening with Saturn down there in Pisces also. So it should be exciting. Should be sort of like one of those days where the key goes into the lock and turns and something opens. It feels like a big moment for each of us individually, personally, individually, not necessarily like on the collective level, even though it could be on the collective level. Um, so yeah, that is actually Monday. It's actually on Monday. And later on in the day, we've got the moon going into Scorpio. Just getting closer to that new moon in Scorpio. Yeah. It's into Scorpio. So yeah, and then as it goes into Scorpio, it's going to be squaring Pluto. So Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, And I just am, again, with some of this like fear stuff, how I started off the video, talking about fear coming up with the moon going into Scorpio, and our emotions are really tied to the moon. Um, there could be fear about some of the advances that we're making with like technology and things. With Uranus going retrograde back into Taurus, there could be just like this last feeling of nostalgia, like, oh, are we going too far too quickly without thinking about it enough? You know, and I know that that's on a lot of people's minds. Just is progress happening too quickly? And this is probably one of the themes that's going to come up with the moon in Scorpio, as we're gonna start looking um, at the progress that we've been making in technology and having a emotional reaction to it. Now, Scorpio is pretty loaded with the sun, the moon, Venus, and Black Moon Lilith, and we're about to have Mercury go back into Scorpio also. So it's going to be fun, like more Scorpios. Like if you couldn't get enough of Scorpio season, just wait. There's more. But wait, there's more. At the end here of Scorpio season, it's just going to be a lot of that feeling need to dig deeper. It's really the only thing that's going to make you feel better is to dig deeper and get the information that you feel like you need to have. But remember that it's probably going to scare you. That's just the truth of it. And there's no getting around that because sometimes um the certain things don't come around in our head unless we're like in a state of fear. It is actually a prominent, like our survival instinct kicks in, and we're more creative. We can solve problems more creatively, actually, when we're actually in a state of fear. It just depends on how resilient you are. And some of us are really quite resilient and get very creative because the idea of fear taking us over is like, well, I'm not gonna let that happen, right? So, all kinds of stuff starts kicking in when you're afraid. Um, and then on Tuesday, yeah, that's when Mercury comes back into Scorpio. That's what time in the evening? It says 7:20. So with Mercury back into Scorpio and the moon is conjuncting Venus in Scorpio. I mean, there's it's not a bad thing, this alignment. It might be actually quite thrilling. You know what I mean? It might be kind of fun for some people. If you're not in a state of fear, you might experience some of the cool, like, unveilings of Scorpio. The Scorpio, higher expression of Scorpio is the Phoenix, rising from the ashes. And with Mercury right there at 29 degrees, even though Mercury is retrograding, um, there is a Phoenix moment that could be, um, you know, uh, just it's not a bad thing, this Scorpio stuff. It's just a lot of deepness, investigation. And it also means that Pluto carries a lot of strength with all of those planets in there in Scorpio. So Pluto and Mars. So those are the rulers of Scorpio. And so, Mars in Sagittarius. Um, that's why I said it's probably going to be interesting and, it could be like fun. It could be the like searching, questing, and researching and investigating, and you get deep into something that is really satisfying for the soul because, and we might use technology to get there. You might be listening to an audiobook or reading a digital book. Um, a lot of these tools that we're using, we're looking into ancient like scripts, ancient advice, um the word I'm looking for isn't coming, but just ancient knowledge, right? It's coming in through technology, YouTube videos, digital books, audio books, digitizing of all kinds of um, really ancient, cool wisdom. And that could be something that you get really into during this time. It's definitely a possibility. And with the new moon happening on Wednesday, the next day, there's definitely a chance that you might be opening up a new book of sorts to looking into the soul, into more soul work. Yes, because the Scorpio season at the end of it is really calling us to um like comfort our fears with knowledge, go deep, find the answers deep down under all of the layers. Yeah. All right. Well, it's going to be a very interesting week coming up. And I can't wait for the new moon. That'll be awesome, actually. I think, you know, um, all this Scorpio energy could be used for a higher purpose, honestly. Yeah. I'm gonna stop screen sharing. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining me again. This is fun. I always enjoy going over the planets and sharing this with everybody. I will see you all next week. Have a great week. All right.